Hi there, good morning. Welcome to the Trade Setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Neeraj Shah, and it's Tuesday and a day wherein the world markets are not giving you any major cues. So you would likely have a flattish move with maybe individual stocks and bottom-up ideas doing the trick, isn't it? So let's take stock of what the world markets are doing and have done. So US markets, a flattish. Again, the Nasdaq did reasonably okay. The Dow and the S&P were flattish. Actually, the Russell 2000, which is the small cap index, did much better than the large caps. Now, interesting. The last 2 or 3 sessions, I've been looking at select quant indicators to try and assess as to what's happening to the fear and greed indicators, right? And most indicators are talking about greed being prevalent right now, so that the people should be careful. Which is why I've been saying that be careful with leverage long positions on the index side of the large cap space. There's this gauge of the US markets, a barometer of the US stocks. This is the Credit Suisse Fear Barometer, and this is now trading near the highest since 2018. I was reading this interesting FT article, Financial Times article of 2017, which showed how when there were rates being raised in the US, and how this fear indicator had hit the highs then and post that there's a bit of a corrective move. I don't know. I'm not saying that is what will happen, because sure, this could go higher from where it is right now as well. Who is to say that it can't go higher than 2018? But it's an interesting statistic that you must keep in mind. Asia, and what is Asia doing in the session today? And then what is SGX Nifty doing? That's something that we should try and point out as well before we get down to the trade setup. So this is what the rest of the world is: flat to marginally positive, or in some instances marginally negative, but this is hardly a move really that we should talk about. So it's a very, very flat market. And mind you, like I said, the US futures are trading very flat. So I doubt that there is too much of global enthusiasm or worries that are there in the markets in the session today. At least SGX Nifty would probably not show something much different. Yeah, about 28 points. So it's hardly a move, right? We're probably looking at a flattish start and maybe a fairly placid day as well in today's session. So let's wait and watch. Frankly, in terms of stocks, there isn't too much to talk about, but we'll get to that in a bit. So what's the trade setup, right? I mean, the MOV function first to show what happened in trade yesterday at the broader end of the spectrum. We all know what the Nifty did. The broader end of the spectrum, we had a bunch of stocks doing really well. Mazagon Docs, excuse me, for all the news that everybody knew, but even the others, right? Wherein in certain cases like Angel Broking, the circuit filters revised and up 14%. Similarly, in Adani Power, right? Circuit filter revised and the stock was up 20%. Phillips Carbon Black sees no negativity, 8% higher in trade. I wonder what will happen to tire companies with what's happening to carbon black prices and crude prices. Garden Reach Shipbuilders, Yes Bank was up about 10%. IRCTC 2094. That's quite stellar, really, the way this stock has moved up on the opening up theme. It was an obvious opening up play, so to say. What didn't do well, Varroc Engineering. And remember, we spoke about this yesterday, about how Ambit Capital's target price got revised downwards quite substantially. The numbers weren't exactly the best. So that one was down 11%. There was weakness in Phoenix Mills, down about 3% at 850. But tire companies, by and large, are seeing some bit of corrective moves. MRF, of course, was a result play. So what to do in the session like today, wherein you probably have to depend on stock-specific moves? Frankly, first, the overall trade setup, I think the pace of the market up move has eased because of the lack of the momentum in the banking stocks. Frankly, you needed banking to keep on doing well. Like I was saying for the last few days, that if you have to move higher, then BFSI has to participate, and we are not seeing banks participate. In fact, NBFCs, because of Bajaj Finance's news yesterday, a warning yesterday, corrected in trade. So the pace of the up move has eased a bit. I think the trends are now looking risky, but because the market breadth is positive day after day after day, we're not seeing any major signs of reversal. FIs have sold, by the way, yesterday after 3 days of positive buying, but no major signs of reversal as yet. And I think when I was speaking to a few smart money managers and dealers, etc., yesterday, I spoke to a lot of people yesterday, by the way. Most of them are saying that laggards would now probably in focus for the June series. So we've seen banks do a big up move, cooling off. Other spaces, cement, metals do a big up move, cooling off. Yes, oil remains in focus. but they are now pinning their hopes on media, on telecom stocks to probably be in focus. And I hear a lot of people talk about media stocks, so keep an eye out on some of those. I mean, I haven't looked at them fundamentally to be able to comment on this platform right now about what the actual fundamentals are. Maybe we can do that tomorrow. But for today's session, I'm just telling you, keep an eye out on the media stocks, large, big, small, or large, medium, small, all of them. People are keeping their eyes out for some of those. So keep them at the back of your mind. So having said that, by virtue of all of this, what is it that one should focus on in the session today? Some mid-cap names that come out with numbers include Max Financial Services. Petro and LNG could be interesting. Similarly, Prestige Estates could be interesting now that the debt levels have come off because they've transferred a large portion of their portfolio to BlackRock in return for some money. Galaxy Surfactants, because I think that space is doing really well. So all of these would be in focus. What about specific stocks in the session today which might react on the back of news that have come out already? Well, firstly, Vector Foods, Q4 numbers. The revenues were up about 15%. EBITDA was up about 15%. PAT up 41%. So that did okay. It was a steady quarter, really. I think the bottom line is aided by other income and lower finance costs. So don't think of that as the operational metric. But the operational numbers looked okay. Steady state in Q4. Pretty interesting. So let's wait and watch. I think Q1 will be impacted, but Q2 onwards, you might actually see this one do okay. So one set of numbers that I thought was interesting. There's another one too, which is PNB, and I'll come to that on a brokerage note piece. But some other names, Shriram Transport Finance, they've approved a preferential equity issue price of about 1440 per share or warrant, and these warrants would be convertible at some point of time. But it's interesting. I don't think this is a very, just keep in mind, I don't think there is a very material fundraise from Shriram Transport Finance, but I think it underscores the point that that NBFCs are trying to do, select NBFCs are able to do and trying to do, which is keep the war chest ready for if there are any issues later on. I think that's what this is about. It's not very materially large one, but interesting timing, interesting pricing. So let's wait and watch what happens to SPFC today. Been reiterating the call on oil explorers now for a while. 3 days ago, we spoke about the JP Morgan note on ONGC. Today, or last evening, Goldman Sachs came out with a note on oil and gas. So on ONGC, they are updating their FY21 to 23 EPS by 5% and 5% respectively at the first and the third year. The 12-month SOTP-based target price has increased by 13% at 180 per share. Essentially, they are upping the target price on ONGC. They are also upping the target price on GAIL. They've updated the FY21, 22, 23 EPS by 1% and 2% at the first and the third year. FY22 EPS estimates come up a bit, but they're upgrading that 12-month target price by 8% to 195. It's very interesting that the Goldman note on GAIL is coming a day or two before the numbers come out. So let's wait and watch what happens to GAIL today and in the short term. PNB could be interesting. Numbers came out, and CLSA has upgraded the stock from an outperform rating from a sell rating. The target price has been raised to 47 rupees from 22 rupees. They believe that the turning corporate credit cycle will benefit PNB, but just that, given the low ROE expectations, they are preferring SBI, ICICI, Access, wherein they see about 30 to 50% upside from the current prices as opposed to PNB. But the fact that it's been upgraded to an outperform from sell, and not necessarily because of the numbers that came out, but because of the numbers around, but because of the belief that a turning corporate credit cycle might actually benefit PNB. So this could be interesting. Union Bank is the other one because of the numbers, etc., could be in focus. So keep that in mind. And I thought Dhampur Sugar was interesting yesterday. That was one stock. It actually didn't do too much. It was just up about 6%. Now, one of the things that I found interesting in the release that they have given yesterday, they merely authorized this. So it was obviously out that they are going to demerge the business into two. While they've spoken about this unlocking value of the manufacturing units, etc., I didn't see many material reasons how, because it's not that they are divesting the sugar and the ethanol business. so to say, so that the ethanol business can get higher value. Some of the demerged entities or units have both sugar and ethanol divisions. I think it is the second line that they gave, which is that this will also create an enabling framework for succession planning. That probably is the bigger reason. Now, the only thing is that typically with larger scale come economies of scale, being able to market well, etc. I think what Dhampur is doing is effectively reducing the size of each of the competitive units. Now, I'm not the one. I'll be honest, I haven't looked at Dhampur so closely to be able to tell you that this unit has better efficiency on ethanol and sugar versus the other. But this doesn't seem to be very consequential positively in terms of a demerger. So keep that in mind. Typically, when we see demerger, we are like, wow, the company is doing this because this should be very materially positive, it will bring efficiencies, etc. In this case, I don't think that is the reason. It might well to do with succession planning. So keep that in the back of your mind. Sugar is in a good uptrend, by the way, as we've been speaking about. But this one, demerger, doesn't necessarily impact Dhampur very, very positively the way other demergers do to other companies. So keep that in mind. And I'll keep an eye out for Religare, Ambuja, Prince Pipes, and some of the others. Religare, because there's the board meet today for the fundraise. Now, remember, the stock has been on a bit of a tear. There are expectations and some large corporate house will actually come and take controlling stake. Let's wait and watch if that happens for Religare. Ambuja, I think a brokerage note, Credit Suisse or somebody else, reiterated their long call and bullish stance on Ambuja. And Prince Pipes, because it's meeting, I think, Wells Fargo Investment Management today in a board in an investor meet on a one-on-one basis, and the pipe companies are being sought out from multiple people, so it could be very, very interesting. Now, lastly, what stood out for me, there are 2 or 3 things that are happening across the world which are very interesting. Jeff Bezos is going on a space flight, which is amazing. I think Apple has upgraded FaceTime in apparent competition to Zoom, so that's interesting. But what stood out for me was a piece of news that came in yesterday, but I didn't point it out yesterday. But I think it's important to point it out, is that El Salvador is planning a bill to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. And that's quite stunning, really, if indeed one nation is keeping Bitcoin as a legal tender. And that is something that all of us should keep in mind as well. So crypto had a very rough day yesterday, by the way. All the cryptocurrencies are down about 5%. But let's wait and watch if it percolates into the equity markets or no. But it's a sovereign nation that is adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender. That's pretty interesting. And then we're just about to show you a chart as well. I'll just wait for that to come out in a bit. Maybe if it doesn't, no problem. But yeah, but this is the piece. El Salvador is planning a bill to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender. Yesterday's news, but I didn't bring it yesterday, but this is pretty interesting to monitor. Viewers, thanks for tuning into the trade setup today. Have a safe, profitable day ahead. And if you're stepping out of your houses, please mask up.